हमारे कानून आज के टाइम पे इंडिया में ऐसे हैं कि आपकी अपनी वाइफ अगर अपने खुद के बेडरूम में, आपके बेडरूम में किसी पराये मर्द के साथ सेक्सुअल रिलेशनशिप एस्टैब्लिश करती है, आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते.
Really?
Yes.
Why does society also think like that?
The man who was lynched, that the medical report actually doesn't say that she was raped.
Like, is it past instances that are too many and they've been blown out of proportion? Or why is this the norm now that, everyone is accusing the male?
I'm against women who are criminals. Just like the society is against men who are criminals, I'm against women who are criminals. And these women that I'm fighting against are criminals of the society. Minor boy and minor girl are eloping. They are going and having sex. Why are we jailing the boys only?
Correct.
The problem is we're always, all the time hearing only women's issues.
They've never voiced our issues.
Yeah.
I would love for you to give us an overview for people who don't know exactly what happened in the Johnny Depp case.
Ms. Heard accused me of abuse.
My ex-husband is suing me.
Brutal, cruel,
This is humiliating for any human being to go through.
and all false.
I don't know who to believe.
I was hitting you. Mr. Depp is your victim, isn't he?
Not only indulged in, violence against Johnny Depp, but continued to portray herself as a victim when she was not. And he won the case.
Namaste and welcome to this episode of the Oddcast Show. Today we're going to be talking about a very, very odd topic called men's rights. We're joined by Deepika Narayan Bhardwaj, who is a men's rights activist. She's also a journalist and she's also a documentary filmmaker. One of her documentaries on Netflix on the same subject has done very well. And Namaste Deepika ji, how are you?
I'm absolutely fine, Kunal.
Welcome back to Pune. How do you like it? Do you like it?
It's nice and
How are
pleasant, much
How
better
are you
than
feeling
Delhi.
to be here?
Great. Lovely.
Okay. So we're talking about men's rights, and I'm not joking, but I've never heard of this subject called men's rights. What is men's rights? I've really never heard of this. And the fact that men celebrate their International Men's Day with World Toilet Day itself makes me feel that, is this subject even worth talking about? Where are we? What's happening with men's rights?
Thanks for having me on your show, Kunal. I think there is no requirement of describing what's men's rights because the two words themselves just hold relevance a lot, because when you talk about women's rights, it's the rights that women should have. What are those rights? To have a dignified life, to be not subjected to violence, to not be subjected to oppression or discrimination, right? These are they're mostly the things,
basics.
The basics of life, a good life, a human life that is respected and worth living. It's exactly the same for men. To not be discriminated against, to not be subjected to violence, to not be subjected to oppression, to not be differentiated upon, to enjoy the rights that are granted by the Constitution, fundamental rights, as simple as that. And because there are these violations, there is a need to talk about men's rights. It's as simple as that. A lot of people, ask this, do men actually need any rights? Because they have all the rights. Which is not true. Yes, probably socially they enjoy a lot of privilege, much more than women. But legally, they are disadvantaged. They do not have provisions to safeguard their interest. The laws that exist for women do not exist for men. So, basic reason for talking about men's rights. And as far as celebrating International Men's Day and having it simultaneously with World Toilet Day, it's an insult. Just like people who talk about men's issues are insulted all the time, as if they're doing something which is out of place, not to be done. Yeah, like you said, started odd. I personally do not believe so. I personally do not think so. And it's sad that just because people have these stereotypes against men and think that each and every man on the basis of his gender is a privileged entity, it's not true. It's absolutely rubbish. Just like women, there are a lot of women who are privileged and who have everything. There are men who are absolutely underprivileged and who do not have anything. So to humiliate anybody, to raise a legitimate voice, I think it's more on the people who do it rather than people like us who are actually talking about something legitimate.
Right. But, there are feminists
Yeah.
who, practice women's rights, they advocate that.
Yeah.
Who's doing it for men? Are they meninists? I mean, what are they called? Who does this?
To be very honest, Kunal, it's, the society has, and the normal discourse has become like that. We need to have labels and tags to describe things. But if you talk about me, I'm happy to call myself a men's right activist, and but sometimes refrain from doing so because people have these stereotypes associated. I don't think so. People need labels to do something that they really, really believe in or want to do in their life. Yeah, people call me equal rights activist. People call me men's right activist. My work is to talk about and to bring out stories about men who have suffered, who are suffering, and whose stories are usually not discussed when we talk about, gender issues. So, yeah, give me any label that you want, but just accept the work that I'm doing because it's true and it's the need of the hour.
Right. What happened with you? Like, why did you get into this? Like, why have you made this your purpose?
So until 2011, I was an absolutely I was just like any other girl or a woman who would believe that there are only women who are wronged. Women are subjected to a lot of
On the receiving end,
yeah,
always.
on the receiving end always, right? So they do not have the opportunities, or there is हमारे, since we were talking in Haryana में बोलते हैं दबात करते हैं
बिल्कुल.
लड़का लड़की के बीच में,
बिल्कुल.
right? तो 2011 तक I was also the same. But in 2011, my family went through a crisis. There was a marriage that broke down. The fault was not of the male member at all. But it was the woman who was in love with someone else before the marriage, continued it after the marriage. The marriage was an absolute sham. But when it got out in the open, in order to pin the blame for the breakdown of the marriage, she chose false allegations of dowry and domestic violence. I was also accused. Kunal, हम हरियाणा से हैं, तो मैंने हरियाणा रोडवेज की बसेस में एक बार नहीं, पता नहीं कितनी बार, बिकॉज माई इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज वॉज इन भिवानी. आई यूज टू ट्रैवल फ्रॉम जींद टू भिवानी इन हरियाणा रोडवेज. आई वॉज अ कॉलेज गोइंग गर्ल. मेरे सामने मैंने कितनी सारी लड़कियों को प्रोटेक्ट किया है, बिकॉज आई हैव ऑलवेज बीन वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, loud voice, take a stand kind of a person. So लड़कों से लड़ाइयाँ लड़ी हैं, अपने लिए नहीं, किसी और लड़की के लिए जो बेचारी कुछ बोल नहीं पा रही थी और जिसको शायद कोई के साथ गलत कर रहा था, नॉट शायद, जिसके साथ कोई गलत कर रहा था, छेड़ रहा था, ऐसा कुछ. तो खुद भी ऐसे लोगों के साथ पंगे लिए मैंने. तो मेरे जैसे इंसान को एक एलिगेशन मेरे ऊपर लगाया गया कि मैं इस मोहतरमा को हर रोज पीटती थी. एज इफ मेरे पास और जिंदगी में और कोई काम ही नहीं था उसको पीटने के अलावा. मैं ऑफिस नहीं जाती थी, मैं कोई काम नहीं करती थी, बट मैं उसको हर रोज पीटती थी दहेज के लिए और डाउरी के लिए, और उसके ऊपर डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस करती थी. सो इट वाज वेरी शॉकिंग, एंड that's when I started researching that what is this nonsense all about? How can someone just put allegations in the air and the system kind of takes it as face value
fully, yeah.
and supports them fully when it is she who has done wrong. So I'll tell you, गुड़गांव की कोर्ट में हम लोग एक बार खड़े थे, 2011 की बात है, और ये जो लेडी जिसकी मैं बात कर रही हूँ, जो खुद गलती पर थी, पर इन्होंने हमारे ऊपर, हमारे परिवार के ऊपर एलिगेशंस लगाए, ये अपनी बहन के साथ कोर्ट में खड़ी थी, और इतने सारे एविडेंसेस, इतने सारे प्रूफ्स हमारे पास थे कि हमारी गलती नहीं है, उनकी गलती है. लेकिन इनकी बहन, जो कि कुछ दिनों पहले तक अपनी ही बहन को गालियां दे रही थी या पुट डाउन कर रही थी या गुस्सा कर रही थी कि तुमने क्या किया,
सुधारने की कोशिश कर रही थी,
वो कोर्ट में खड़ी होके अपनी उसी बहन को कह रही है कि सारे कानून तेरे पास है, इन लोगों को तो हम दिखाएंगे, राइट? तो डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. तो मुझे यूँ लगा कि ये एग्जैक्टली इसको क्या बताना चाह रही हैं और व्हाट डज दिस एग्जैक्टली मीन कि सारे कानून इनके पास हैं. बट लेटर ऑन आई वुड गेट टू नो दैट शी वाज एब्सोल्युटली राइट. All the laws are so heavily skewed in India in favor of women that whatever she says becomes the truth in front of the system, in front of the police.
I want to get into the law also, especially with the new BNS also coming in. I'm going to get into that at a later stage in the podcast. But I want to understand one thing, that because I have seen this in my own friend circle, where a friend of mine whose relative was accused of a Me Too type of thing, and his life is so destroyed right now. He's so screwed that this boy cannot come out of his own house now.
Yeah.
He's been ostracized by everyone in society.
Yeah.
And, generally society also just believes, society just believes it. Any woman comes and accuses you of anything. The law is one side of the story, but then even general society just immediately believes it and says, इसने तो किया ही होगा.
Yep.
ये आदमी है तो किया ही होगा इसने.
Yeah.
The poor girl is innocent. And this kid was picked up from his bedroom at 5 in the morning by the cops, dragged out, beaten up, and then jailed for a month. And it's just been terrible. So my question to you is that, why does society also think like that? Like, is it past instances that are too many and they've been blown out of proportion? Or why is this the norm now that, everyone is accusing the male?
See, there is definitely a lot of
there's a lot of baggage.
Yes. There are insane kind of crimes that have been done to women. Not done to, but that continue to be done to women. So, how should I put it? The concern is legitimate. The outpouring of emotions is legitimate. There is no denial that women continue to be in a very, very vulnerable situation in a lot of places, especially in a country like India. We are still very, very conservative. So that's the reason why society wants to always believe the woman, because the number of women who suffer are innumerably high, right? But it is always the case? No, it's not always the case.
That doesn't mean that the other side doesn't suffer.
Exactly. Now, like we were talking about numbers, these numbers of men who suffer are not humongous, not very huge, but they're also not that negligible that you can ignore this. So the reason I would say the society largely still wants to err on the side of the woman is because women have suffered a lot. But thankfully, the things are definitely changing. One of the reasons why the society's perspective still remains to be this is because there aren't enough stories about men that have been told. And that's the entire premise of my work and my existence.
But one of the reasons why men's stories are not being told also is that men choose to suffer silently. They don't speak up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's probably 9 out of 10 cases where men don't want to come out and speak itself because they feel embarrassed. They don't know how to deal with the emotions.
It's a very, what's that word called? There are a lot of things that are connected with each other. People say men suffer in silence, men do not speak up. Have you even heard men when they speak up? You still judge, right? So why would the person even bother to speak up if he has to be judged? And when he's putting out his story out in the public, he's going to be in the eyes of so many people who are probably, most likely, going to come back and say, ki haan, tu hi galat hai. So why even do that? Why even take that risk? So, is the society willing to hear men, for men to start speaking up? Probably they will if you accept them and actually acknowledge their suffering. But for the fear of being judged, most men actually don't speak up. But yeah, like I was saying, the entire premise of my work is to actually tell these stories. In 2012, when I started after our personal issue, the first thing that struck me was that there are so many men who die by suicide because of misuse of IPC 498A. I wanted to give back to the society because we suffered and we got out of it relatively in a simpler manner than most people do.
You were lucky.
Yes, we were lucky. We paid up. So I have absolutely no shame in admitting we paid up, because
Despite all the evidence in your favor.
despite all the evidences that we had in our favor, because I'll tell you, we are both from Haryana. My father actually went and met a retired judge, and this is literally what the judge told my father when my father told them कि ये हालात हैं, ये जो लेडी है इनका कहीं और अफेयर है और शादी के बाद भी everything is she is with him. तो this is what the retired judge told my father कि भारद्वाज साहब, हमारे कानून आज के टाइम पे इंडिया में ऐसे हैं कि आपकी अपनी वाइफ अगर अपने खुद के बेडरूम में, आपके बेडरूम में किसी पराये मर्द के साथ सेक्सुअल रिलेशनशिप एस्टैब्लिश करती है, आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते.
Really?
Yes. आप सिर्फ एक ही चीज करो, किसी भी तरह इस केस को ना लगने दो, नहीं तो आपका परिवार बर्बाद हो जाएगा.
My God.
This is exactly what this retired judge said. So after hearing something like this from a person who has been in the system, what would a family do? Obviously, do everything that's possible.
Whatever possible to get out of it.
Right. And that's why this has become a business.
It has become a business now.
Yes. 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Marriages that have broken down within 7 days. The men and the families are being asked to shell out 50 lakhs, 1 crore. For what? And people are unabashedly asking those kind of monies because there are advocates who would guide you. There are advocates who are taking percentage. There's percentage.
Settlement percentage.
Yes. A lot of advocates do not charge fees from the female client.
केस
that
तो
they
हम
are...
जीत ही जाएंगे तो उसमें से परसेंटेज ले
केस तो लड़ने की बात ही नहीं है.
अच्छा, उसके
लड़ाई
पहले
तो
ही?
बहुत दूर की बात है. उससे पहले ही कितने लोग लड़ने की हिम्मत रखते हैं कुणाल. बेयरली मतलब ऐसे ऐसे केसेस मेरे पास आते हैं जहाँ पे there are sisters who approach me, who tell me that their brother is on the verge of suicide and the family just wants to get over with the case because they can't see this losing their son. तो 50 लाख, 1 करोड़, 60 लाख जो भी है, जमीन बेची, ये बेचा, वो बेचा, जिस भी तरह से मैनेज कर पाते हैं लोग मैनेज करके देते हैं. एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली द सिस्टम हैज अलाउड इट. देयर आर डॉक्यूमेंटेड केसेस, एक क्या पता नहीं 1000 लाख, जहाँ पे हाई कोर्ट जो है वो आराम से हैप्पीली फिर केस को पहले तो बोला कि दहेज के लिए आप प्रताड़ना करी, मारा पीटा. हमारी खिलाफ जो एलिगेशन है उसमें लिखा हुआ था कि हमने एक दुपट्टे से उसका गला दबा के उसको मारने की कोशिश की. दीज आर वाइट लाइज just exist in the statement in an FIR or a complaint. There's absolutely no evidence that's required to be given for it. तो इतनी सारी चीजें लिखनी, अगर इतना ही अत्याचार हुआ है तो फिर भैया आप पैसे लेके उसको क्यों सेटल कर रहे हो? आप उसको सजा दिलवाओ ना. But this is what is happening in majority of the matrimonial disputes. पैसे लो, हाई कोर्ट जाओ, केस को quash करो. Not just matrimonial disputes. This is now happening in rape cases. High courts are quashing rape cases because there was a settlement arrived between parties. अभी ही मेरे ख्याल से पिछले हफ्ते की स्टेटमेंट है. I think it was from Madras High Court or Kerala High Court. They said the false rape case was filed seemingly because there was a financial dispute. And now since the financial dispute has settled, there is no point pursuing the case, so we are quashing this case.
My God.
So you're telling that in financial disputes, you can file a rape case and then you go to the system itself, जिसने उस rape case को investigate भी किया होगा, पुलिस फोर्स भी लगाई होगी, पता नहीं कितने घंटे पुलिस के गए होंगे, पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर है, कम से कम भी 10 लोग आपके सिस्टम के उस केस के ऊपर काम करे होंगे, right? Because it's a heinous crime of rape. उसके बाद आप हाई कोर्ट में जाके उस केस को खत्म कर रहे हैं, रद्द कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सेटलमेंट हो गई, तो फिर सभी लोग करेंगे, right? So it's a system which it's so easy. It's the system which is encouraging these things. What will happen?
So there's a question I have here that most people, when they hear this sort of men's rights activists such as yourself who being a female are fighting for men's rights, the first argument that the other side may have is, what about all the other women who are being assaulted? Why isn't she fighting for that? What is your response to that?
I don't think so there needs to be any response to that because half of the population of our country is women. I don't think every woman is fighting for women, first of all. Second, there's National Commission for Women that is fighting for women. There is Women and Child Development Ministry. There's an entire ministry for women. There are state commissions for women. There are thousands of NGOs that are fighting for women. The annual budget of Women and Child Development Ministry is about 21,000 crores. So that's quite a lot of money. And this percolates down to each and every institution that's working for the rights of women. So there's a lot of institutional support that women do have. They obviously need it. And there is support for them. And there are people, so many people fighting for them. If I'm not working for them, then I don't think so. They are missing out on anything. Now, if people have a problem that why then Deepika is not fighting for women, but for men, then Deepika honestly doesn't have anything to say because...
and you don't have to justify it.
I don't have to justify that as well. But
Right.
I'll conclude it with this, that me fighting for men does not mean that I'm fighting against women or... that I do not fight or stand for women's rights. I totally, wholeheartedly, in all my being, stand for women's rights. Women deserve a life which is devoid of any oppression or subjugation. I would want every woman to have the most healthy life and do whatever she wants to do, and everybody to be very supportive of that. But I'm against women who are criminals. Just like the society is against men who are criminals, I'm against women who are criminals. And these women that I'm fighting against are criminals of the society. They are extortionists, they are disgruntled, they are opportunists who are exploiting the laws that have been made for women who are genuine victims. So I am not standing against women, I'm standing against women who are criminals and who ruin lives of others and get away with it.
Okay, so I have a lot of general questions that come from my generation. I'm pretty sure you've got them before, but for the sake of the audience, before we get into that,
sure.
I would love for you to give us an overview for people who don't know exactly what happened in the Johnny Depp case.
Okay, so the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case is, of course, spanning too long. So
Yes.
I'm not going to get into the absolute nitty-gritties. But what happened was there were, of course, a lot of issues between them as a couple. They had parted ways, and there were on and off a lot of media stories that were coming. Amber Heard used to say that, had claimed that she was beaten up and everything. But eventually they had separated, and they had discussed whatever the formalities of the divorce or whatever was done. But during the Me Too movement, Amber Heard wrote an article calling herself as the, I don't remember the exact headline of the article, but she was basically asking women to speak up, representing herself as a survivor of extreme sort of domestic violence.
Like a victim.
Yeah, correct. So, and by then, a lot of allegations had been leveled by her, but here and there. But this time, because it had been going on and on for very long, Johnny Depp took a stand and he filed a case against Amber Heard and the publication as well. That case is defamatory, and it is not Amber Heard who has been subjected to domestic violence, but it is he who has been subjected to abuse, manipulation, domestic violence, and, range of things. So that's when...
that's been legally proved.
So this case then went on to a trial where Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard for defamation for this article that she had written. And he won the case. It was proved that Amber Heard had not only indulged in, violence against Johnny Depp, but continued to portray herself as a victim when she was not. And the trial obviously was played out in front of the entire world. So one of the most highlighted aspects of that trial was the recording, which basically started very, very healthy discussion on domestic violence on men, where Amber Heard is heard saying that, "Go Johnny, go tell the world that you are a victim of domestic violence and see who will believe you."
Nobody will believe him is what she thought, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And obviously nobody would have believed him
But
until
we talked about that. That's how society is skewed in one direction in terms of its thought process.
Absolutely. I would say good job to Johnny Depp for standing for himself.
And the US judicial system.
Yes, absolutely. For, having this absolute landmark case. Now, even in this trial, the decision of this case, if you see, by the feminist lobbies and the women's rights activists, have called this as, taking women back to decades or something like that.
Caveman days.
Yes, that, this is absolute horrendous judgment. How could this judgment be passed? This is a testimony of the misogyny that prevails in the society. They're just not willing to look at the other side of the story. They just want things to remain so black and white, with the black, spot on the men and the white
just be
spot
hell-bent on one side.
Yeah, they just think that that women are always the victims. They perpetrate that narrative and have successfully perpetrated that narrative for endless years, when that's not the case. There are just too many grays in every relationship. I receive cases day in, day out. I have videos in my phone right now where it's the woman who is beating the guy up with chappal, with karchi, with belan, with, has thrown lamp on his face and
Really?
whatnot. Yeah, obviously.
But see,
In COVID, there was a guy who came to me. His entire head was broken by his wife. He was bleeding from his entire face. I'd posted those images on Twitter. The police did take cognizance, but kuch kiya nahi.
Nothing. They did nothing.
No, they called the wife to come to the police station and explain why she did this. She never went to the police station.
And that's it.
That's it.
Case closed.
Case hua hi nahi. Case hua hi nahi.
My God.
That
But
guy was sleeping in his car for 1 week
My God.
after this episode.
So I would like to ask you some questions that are catered to my generation right now. First one is that recently I was talking to a friend who's dating a girl.
Yeah.
And so I asked him that, what are you going to do to protect yourself if, God forbid, something goes down like this?
Yeah.
Of course, he had no answer, which is not a surprise. But so we had a lawyer last week who was talking about this kind of stuff. And he said that if you're going into a relationship like that, live in or not, whether it's casual or whatever, even if it's not physical, sign a legal document that has both the consents. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Such agreements, first of all, do not have too much value or weightage. They can be given due consideration during the course of trial. But in the beginning, if the woman is going and complaining of sexual violence, such agreements, should I say, will completely safeguard you? No, they won't. Because the woman is alleging that the crime has happened to her. The police is bound to register the FIR and then take action. Technically, they are supposed to investigate the case and then take action. But unfortunately, because all of these sections that are particularly dealing with sexual abuse of women are very, very stringent, and they have the provision of immediate arrest of the guy. And hence, a lot of men are immediately arrested. Yes, it's non-bailable, it's cognizable. So can that completely safeguard you? No. Can that definitely make the woman hesitate a bit before leveling false allegations? For sure, because you have gotten into a consensual agreement. So she would also think twice before alleging something which is totally a lie, right? Are these agreements looked into at the stage of filing of the case? Well, if it's a good cop, they will. If the cops are extremely one-sided or biased, they won't. So it's very subjective. I wouldn't call these agreements a full proof against false allegations, but yes, they can come to aid if you are falsely accused. Yeah, I mean,
It's a small start.
Yeah, it's a small start. Eventually, these agreements will have to have a admissibility also and due consideration also, because now we are getting a law where it's called Section 69 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which says if the guy has promised marriage to a woman and has sexual intercourse with her and does not marry her, then it will not amount to rape, but it will be punished with 10 years of imprisonment.
Wow.
So whether there was any promise of marriage or not,
there's no need to prove it also.
there's no need to prove it. She says it, it becomes a case. So I think such agreements, such consent, probably apps or whatever, definitely need to be there for somebody to safeguard them. Otherwise, it's just accuse anyone.
See, there are two aspects to it. One is that there is a physical harm being done on the man by his spouse or girlfriend or his female partner, and by the family also sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of mental trauma that they put the guy through. For example, in Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's case, I was reading about the whole testimony of his, and he's given evidence also where she used to actually defecate on his bed also. So that was like a way of mentally torturing him. And before this particular case of Amber Heard and all, I was looking up this movie called Disclosure, which is one of the oldest path-breaking movies on this subject, on men's rights.
Yeah.
And how men are so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Where Michael Douglas plays the lead in that, and he's had an affair with Demi Moore in the movie.
Yeah.
And then he gets married to someone else, and she ends up as his boss at his workplace, and then mentally traumatizes him for years.
Yeah.
Where this guy is on the verge of losing his mind and committing suicide, and his own relationship is literally finished. But somehow he wins the case.
Yeah.
Now that's this thing. But what all he's put through to win the case, and the kind of mental trauma that he goes through, apart from the physical trauma that she puts him through, is just crazy. Like any man would just break.
Yep.
So my point is that what is the law today? Like today, what is the law? Before the advent of BNS, what was the law for men? Was there a law in favor of them, or was everything against them?
Okay. We have had criminal laws. Indian Penal Code basically has these hundreds of sections. That there's a section for murder, there's a section for robbery, there's a section for blackmail. So I'm trying to explain it in very, very layman terms, right? There's a section defining various crimes that exist in society, stealing, cheating. There's a specific section under the Indian Penal Code which describes crime against women. These are gender-specific provisions. So on one hand, we have all the other laws under the IPC,
which are common to all. And then there are gender-specific sections related to gender-specific violence or atrocities. Those are crime against women. So there's 498A, which recognizes mental and physical cruelty. So whether the laws have been against men or not. So on one hand, there are criminal laws, and in which there are all kind of sections. Section for murder, robbery, cheating, all the crimes. Then there is crime against women. There are special sections under the IPC, which is now going to be called BNS. So there's a 498A, which criminalizes mental and physical cruelty, but only on a married woman. There is 354, which is outraging modesty of a woman, molestation, stalking, sexual harassment, etc., etc. There's several sections under 354. There's 498A. Then there's a 304B, which is dowry death, which is presumption of a woman being harassed for dowry, which has led to her unnatural death if she dies within 7 years of her marriage. Then there's 354, molestation, stalking, sexual harassment. There are various sections under 354. And these are all biased towards, these are specifically
these are
for
only
women.
For women.
Okay. So these are gender-based laws.
Yes. Then there's rape. That is also there only for women. So then this is IPC provisions. Then there are other special acts as well. For example, sexual harassment at workplace. This is again only for women to protect them from sexual harassment at workplace. Then there's Domestic Violence Act. this is also there only for women. So all the provisions or acts or special provisions that have been brought in India, which recognize gender specific violence or crime or abuse, they are only for women and not for men. For example, in US, in UK, their Domestic Violence Act is gender neutral. A woman can also ask for protection from domestic violence from their spouse or partner. Men can also seek protection orders or injunction against their partner, female partner. But in India, doesn't happen. 498A, for example, it punishes rather criminally physical and mental cruelty. But it's only for a wife. A husband cannot file a 498A on a wife. So all of these provisions have always prevailed, have always been there. These were under Indian Penal Code now. Indian Penal Code. Now they are going to be under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So lawmakers did have an opportunity to make at least the Domestic Violence Act, 498A. There are men who are victims of stalking, molestation. There are men who are victims of rape and sexual violence as well. So there was an opportunity for the lawmakers to make these provisions gender neutral, but they chose not to. And hence the provisions have passed on exactly the same as it is under the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. They did not correct the bias provisions that already were there. They brought a new, very, very scary and biased provision called Section 69, which says that if a man has sex with a woman by deceitful means, then he will be imprisoned for a term which can go up to 10 years.
Wow.
This deceitful means mean that the man gave promise of marriage to the woman. Not just promise of marriage. If he promised to give her a job, or if he promised to give her a promotion, and then had sex with her on that premise, and eventually that is not done, then the man can be jailed for up to 10 years.
And these are consenting adults doing this.
These are consenting adults doing it. These are adult women who would probably get into a consensual relationship like that, but the man gets jailed. In most countries across the world, the provision of domestic violence is gender neutral.
It's for both.
It's for
for
both.
all sides.
Yes, for all sides. Whether in live-in relationship or in marriage, the man can also file a case against his female partner. The woman can also file case against his male partner and seek protection. But in India, it stays to be only for women, and men cannot take provisions under it. While they had to actually correct some of these discriminations under the laws, sadly and very unfortunately, we thought at least BJP would understand, because a lot of these cases, false cases, provisions have led to quite an unrest in the society. But still, I think they were not interested either. They have brought new, very, very biased provision called Section 69 of the
They made it
Bharatiya
worse.
Nyaya Sanhita. Yeah, they've made it worse. They've now brought a law where a man can be jailed up till 10 years if he supposedly promised to marry a woman and had a sexual relationship with her, but did not marry her. Whether there was a promise or not doesn't make a dime difference. If the woman says so, it is so. So the man would be booked up in Section 69. He'll be immediately arrested. And it doesn't stay only there. The law basically describes sex by deceitful means. So if a man allegedly promised job to a woman and then had sexual relationship with her, then also this section can be applied. Not just job, even if he allegedly promised her a promotion. So the law, technically, what the law basically is saying is that if a man had promised to marry a woman, or promised to give her a job, or promised to give her a promotion, and had sex with her and did not honor this promise, then he is going to jail for 10 years. And these are adults who are absolutely
Consenting.
who can apply their brains, who can, understand what they want or what they do not want, women. But अगर जॉब लग गई तो एवरीथिंग इज फाइन, बट अगर जॉब नहीं लगी तो आप सेक्शन 69 लगा देंगे. प्रमोशन अगर मिल गई तो सब कुछ सही है, प्रमोशन नहीं मिली है तो आप सेक्शन 69 लगा सकते हैं. Nowhere in the world such a law exists. It's a quid pro quo. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, as so most people know it, or the way it is across the world. And when there is already a law that punishes a person, job and promotion are of course things related to a workplace. So if a man makes such kind of an advance at a woman that, why don't you have this relationship with me and I'll give you a job or I'll give you a promotion, she can obviously already complain rather than getting into a sexual relationship with someone in return for these. But no, the lawmakers have gone ahead and said that if somebody gets into a relationship like that, the man is going to be penalized and be put behind bars for 10 years.
So my question here is that all these women who are misusing this law, if I may,
Yeah.
whether it's in marriage or outside of marriage or in the workplace or anywhere else, in live-in relationships, etc., like you mentioned,
Yeah.
what, don't they have to submit any proof here?
No.
How does this work?
No.
But common sense would say, right, that for any law or any case to progress, there would be evidence.
No.
There would be something required.
No, Kunal.
So there's nothing required.
No.
It's just as
And
easy for them to just open their mouth.
I'm saying this with absolute and utmost responsibility.
So you mean to say that a woman can just accuse any man of anything?
Yes.
And even if the people have never met also, can somebody just conjure up something in their mind and accuse someone?
There was a case from Delhi. This man was in touch with me. He had a matrimonial dispute with his wife. His wife had filed all cases possible. Men who are caught in matrimonial disputes that are contested, basically, where they've not been able to come on mutual terms to get separated. Invariably, the wife files a package of case on the husband. There's a domestic violence case, there's a 498A, there's a CRPC 125 for maintenance, there's 406 criminal breach of trust, there's dowry prohibition provisions. Then there is usual, up to 377 is not there, but there was a law called unnatural sex. 377 used to be there. So one man out of one broken marriage in India today is chugging along at least 6 to 7 civil and criminal cases on his shoulders.
Damn.
That's the kind of burden a broken marriage can have on a man in India. So there was this guy who approached me and he was seeking help from me. He said his wife, because nothing worked out, he got bail in all the cases that she had filed and all of that, and he was fighting very aggressively all the cases because he had not done anything wrong. She got a woman file a rape case on his brother-in-law.
Oh.
Sister's husband. This man had never seen her, never even known her. She makes up a story that I met this man at this metro station. He offered me a lift and I took a lift from him and then he raped me inside the car. This man was not even in the country on that day. But an FIR was registered in Delhi.
Without any evidence.
Without any evidence, but probably they did not even speak
It's
to this
just the
man.
word of the lady.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. This man then said, hello, I am not even in the country on that day. This is my passport. This is my stamp. This is everything. The man had to go to Delhi High Court to seek relief in this case. He had gone for quashing that this FIR is absolutely bogus. So kindly quash this case. That is when High Court said that, they sort of held the officers responsible, the cops responsible, that are you like blind or what? He's not even in the country on the date she's alleging. And they said, there be thorough investigation and do the investigation against this woman also, because this man said that she takes money to file false cases against men. So then an investigation was ordered. But the question, Kunal, is how many men have the wherewithal to go to the High Court? This
Nobody.
man is, यहाँ पे लोगों के पास हजारों रुपए भी नहीं होते अपनी लिटिगेशन के लिए. वहां पे आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि हाई कोर्ट में जाके कोई एक रेप जैसे केस को कॉश कराने की अपील लगाएगा, गुहार लगाएगा. This man was obviously well placed, so he didn't get arrested. There's another man who I'm fighting very, very hard for right now. He's from Faridabad, well-to-do guy, but very, very innocent person and very, very humble family. Wo rising from here to here kind of a story. He was accused of rape by a woman he had never seen, never met, didn't even know of. She was a part of a honey trap gang. This gang basically made the woman go and sit beside this man in a theater. And they, of course...
And they were strangers.
So this guy, one of the gang members basically was friends with this guy. Mm-hmm. And he knew that he is filthy rich. So they plotted this entire thing. This woman files a rape case 7 months after this movie show, where she says that she was given a cold drink by this man. She didn't know at all. And she then lost her conscience. And then she started walking out from the theater. So this man said, you're not feeling well. I will drop you home. So this woman is taking cold drink from a man she doesn't know in a theater, first of all. And then the man who was given her cold drink, which made her feel uneasy.
She's going with him in the car.
She's going with him only to get dropped or takes a lift from him. And then she alleges that in the basement of that crowded mall, this man raped her. And 7 months later, she suddenly one day sees his photo on Facebook and she realizes this is the man who had done this. And that man is immediately picked up at 1:30 in the night by the cops. There are obviously cops involved in this also. His family is called and they're asked to shell out 50 lakhs if they doesn't want him to get arrested or
something. As a settlement.
So it's of course these cases are rare. There's no doubt about it. But this proves the extent to which the law is blind. And to your question of what evidence is required, nothing. Her statement. And then her statement to the police, and then her statement to the magistrate under 164 CRPC. Both of these things are enough for a trial to be taken against a man in the charges of rape.
So what's the recourse here that men have? Like, do we have any recourse here in such cases? Like, is there anything that's going to help us, or are we just out there on our own?
If somebody would ask me if they have any recourse to have an absolute safeguard from a false allegation of rape, no.
Nothing.
You can be definitely booked. There would be an FIR against you. But yeah, you can have a good legal representation that can save you from arrest. There are a lot of cases in which the courts are now granting anticipatory bail because there are just so many false cases. And then you can, of course, approach High Court if the case is false to get that case quashed. In fact, I remember earlier when you had said of the mental trauma, there's a man who I'm helping right now. His girlfriend of 2 years filed a rape case on him, saying that he had promised her marriage and then didn't marry her. And this guy is booked for rape. This woman in this 2 years of relationship had made him spend approximately 23 lakh rupees. I'm not saying she extracted it from him. He did it happily because he thought that they were in a relationship. But she wanted him to invest some 10-15 lakh more on some business that she wanted to set up. And he said, no, I can't do this because I don't have this money.
That just triggered her.
Yes, that just triggered her. She filed a rape case. Turns out this woman has filed 2 more rape cases on 2 previous boyfriends of hers. And when she is alleging in that rape complaint, then in these 2 years, this man was giving her promises of marriage. In exactly those 2 years, she has another boyfriend in the same timeline.
My God.
Who's also giving her promise of marriage. So she was basically cheating on this boyfriend with this another guy. And then on that guy also she filed a rape case. On this guy also she filed a rape case. That's how obnoxious the laws have become. There is just no investigation. When this man's parents went all out and figured out that, where all this woman has filed other cases, got the FIRs showed it to the cops that this is her background, this is what she's been doing, हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हम आपके खिलाफ चार्जशीट कोर्ट में डालेंगे, कोर्ट में जाके बताना आप क्या किया उससे, क्या नहीं किया.
But also the social stigma has started on day one, right?
Yes,
I mean,
this
once the ball
guy
is set in
was
motion.
this guy has lost his job. This guy is not doing anything else in his life right now but fighting this case. He has elderly parents to look after. Recently, something happened in their family, and the parents were so shattered that he said to this guy कि तू पैदा होते ही मर जाता. तूने हम लोगों को इतने ज्यादा दुख दिखा दिए कि तू पैदा होते ही मर जाता. Now such statement has, we have only heard these statements probably for girls, right? कि बहुत बोलते हैं कि क्यों पैदा हुई, ये हुआ है. आज के टाइम पे पेरेंट्स इतने ज्यादा परेशान हैं उनके बेटों के साथ जो हो रहा है कि बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स say this to their sons कि इतने ज्यादा दुख दिखा दिए, and that too for nothing, for a false case.
For no fault of the
For
guy.
no fault of theirs, just because the system is so biased, and the parents also had to suffer. So the trauma, the victimization is at such an extreme level, but unfortunately we are not willing to discuss that, at least on the mainstream media, not yet.
Tell me
There are
something.
channels. Recently there's this famous journalist, Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai. He had tweeted that there's a new law which is coming, Section 69 BNS. It is extremely biased. You know, it's going to jail men for just breaking up, all of that. And I responded to him that, sir, I've been following up with you for the last 6 months. Not one. I can bring you 25, 30 men who have been falsely accused of rape because of a consensual relationship breaking down. But you didn't do a show. So, no matter how extreme the case is, our mainstream media, especially the news media, is not willing to yet discuss these
But
cases.
why is that? Because they are biased towards women? Like what's up?
So I was in conversation with a very senior journalist of a TV channel. She follows my work, and she's been very moved by it. We wanted to do a special episode, and she pitched it to her editors. The editor came back saying to her that, have you lost your mind? Women have been oppressed for centuries. Women have been oppressed for so long. What are you even telling me about? There must be these 2 or 3 cases. Why should we talk about them?
But that itself is false, because if you look at ancient India, you know, there were never these issues were never there because we were in a duty-based society then.
Yes.
Now we moved to a rights-based society, and as soon as you move to a rights-based society, there is always going to be conflict,
Absolutely.
right? Now in the past, it was duty-based where, okay, a woman knew that, okay, these are my duties. A man knew these are his duties. The children knew this is their dharma. It was all dharma.
Correct.
Now it's become this.
Yeah.
So that itself is a false thing that women have been oppressed. Yes, in recent 100, 200, 300 years, I can understand that, yes, that statement does hold true. And again, like, you know, we are not taking away the fact that a lot of women all over the world have been oppressed and harassed through time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that men don't get it.
Yeah, obviously.
And the way you're putting it right now, and the laws, because I am totally unaware of this particular subject, because it's just so odd, you know, what you've just told us, that, you know, that it's so easy for anyone to just come and put this kind of an allegation on you, and you don't even need any proof. It's just a statement.
Yep.
So my question is that, where do we go then? You're saying there's nowhere we can go.
Since you are into the onto the corporate side, there was I don't want to take the name, but there was a steel magnate, one of the biggest names in India, in Bombay recently.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Probably the man would have been in an extramarital affair, but that was about it. But then the woman goes and very easily claims that this man, who is her father's age, promised to marry her when he has such big kids and family and everything. And she, knowing well that he is a married man, took that shadi ka jhansa. And it is known in the big industrialist circles in Mumbai that this woman has trapped multiple men like that.
Right.
Now, because this man is so well placed, the case got closed. But for ordinary men, it doesn't. Then there is a former Mr. Yediyurappa. He is right now accused in a POCSO case. The woman who filed this case on Yediyurappa, saying that he molested her daughter, She has filed close to 40 cases
On
of
him.
different kinds. No, of different kinds.
On different people.
On different people. There was a entire list that came out. So yeah, accusation is all it takes and the case begins.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I would like to come back to some of the youth questions when this entire flow was taken away. So the first thing is that what am I supposed to do what is any male supposed to do within this teenage age group or a little bit higher if he's going into a casual or a live-in relationship with another girl? What is the first steps that he is supposed to take to safeguard himself?
So with the, how do I explain this? So for example, 498A as a provision came in 1983, right? And the misuse of the law went on for as long as 30 years, and the Supreme Court came with, a safeguard saying no immediate arrests in the Arnesh Kumar judgment in 2014. Now, during this period of 30 years, a lot of men started realizing that, you can have an accusation like that put on you. So there were some people who documented that there was no dowry taken, there was no demand of dowry as such, and those things like lists, according to Dowry Prohibition Act, also is although a mandate, but people started preparing these lists at least to be cautious so that there are no false allegations put up. But still, there are a lot of people who had to go through this. Now, with the new laws coming in, especially which are in the realm of live-in relationship or relationships, eventually, I think some kind of safeguard will have to be brought in, which can actually save men from this. But as of now, I don't think so. If there's any safeguard that exists. And what I'm talking essentially, or I'm hinting at, is I think it's time now for consent apps to be there, where two people can log in. I don't know, it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs or the tech guys over there. Yeah, it is definitely required. There would, of course, be insecurities regarding privacy and everything, but I think it will have to be the need of the hour, because nobody would want to risk something like this. It's really crazy. So there has to be consent apps, and probably over time some things like these will, come into play. But as of now, as we stand, the only advice that I have for men is to document that there was no promise of marriage.
So document how? Like they just write it down, they get it signed, they get it notarized?
Conversation on WhatsApp. Probably conversation on WhatsApp. I don't have the answers to all the questions, to be very honest, because there are no very clear answers. If you would say is there a rule book? Is there a guidebook? No, there isn't any. I don't want to scare people, but what I talk about is real cases, reality. In Delhi, there was a guy who spent 1.5 years in jail. 1.5 years in jail is an extremely long time. He met this woman through a dating app. The very second day of meeting through that dating app, they book an Airbnb. They stay together for 3 days. Then they have a relationship for about a year. Things go haywire. Both of them have some temperamental issues. All of this while, it is a woman who is sending him extremely seductive messages. She's sending him all her photographs. There's not even M of marriage, of the word marriage, discussed anywhere in that 1 year of conversation. And luckily, this guy had WhatsApp chat from the day they, started chatting till the day he was booked on a charge of rape. And while releasing him on bail, the High Court judge actually observed this, that this man has WhatsApp conversation from the day one, and there's nowhere it is mentioned that this guy had promised her marriage or anything. But what? He spent 1.5 years in jail. His case is not yet over. He will have to fight that
and society
case.
Will be,
he has got a tag of rapist for a relationship not working out. So there are endless cases like these. I'll repeat myself again. There are no rule books to avoid a case completely. But if you get a case, you engage a good advocate, get the best legal advice possible,
That's
and
if you can
act
afford
quickly.
it, right?
Act
That's
quickly.
if you can afford
Yeah,
it.
of course. Of course.
So, but nobody in this entire age group really thinks of all this, because the
Yeah.
friend I told you about, he said that I'm pretty sure nobody else does it.
Yeah.
So, what is it like? For example, what if an 18 plus?
No, I think the parents of this age group, guys, parents who have sons, they need to have these conversations, because the laws are not going to be on your side at all. You will be seen as an accused from the day one, no matter how consensual the relationship was, and you will of course have to go through that trial. So I think parents really need to have this conversation with their young men on what are the laws of the country and how they should know who they are going with, who they are meeting, and what kind of relationship they are getting into as well.
So, and what if it is a 18 plus year old dating a minor girl, 18 plus year old boy dating a minor girl?
Whether it is 18 plus year old guy dating a minor girl, or whether it is a minor boy dating a minor girl, it is a crime. And it is a crime under the most stringent provisions that we have, which is POCSO, which is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences. So that's a good point. Please know the girl that you are getting into a sexual relationship with. If she is a minor, even if she is consenting, her consent does not matter at all.
Even if it's documented.
Even if it is documented. The moment there is a complaint filed, see, everything is fine as long as it is good between two people. Nobody stops anybody from doing anything. Whether it's a crime.
But we don't know when it's going to turn bad, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
exactly. So it's not that teenagers are not having sex. Thousands and thousands, lakhs of teenagers are having consensual sex. Not that everybody lands into jail. But if something goes haywire and the girl's parents get to know, and if they press charges, then you will be booked under the POCSO Act. Recently, Allahabad High Court, I think, has raised this question that if a minor boy and minor girl are eloping, they are going and having sex, why are we jailing the boys only?
Correct.
But they are only asking questions.
That's just
They
a
are not
question they've
doing
asked.
anything.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything about it. Our shelter homes where juveniles are put, juveniles are not sent to jail. They are put in juvenile homes. Our juvenile homes are full of these absolutely innocent teenagers whose only mistake was to have relationship with a teenage girl, or a girl of their age.
And like you mentioned, there need not even be any sexual relationship, right? It could be just a fake allegation. That's all it takes. My God, this is like really, I'm like very, very.
So I have a question that is a little bit off topic before we get back into this. What are your thoughts on this narrative in our education system? Because whenever I was growing up in school, and it was always that girls can always hit boys, but boys cannot react physically because men may be biologically more evolved or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
I'm not saying that boys should be able to hit girls, but I'm saying that how does one find a solution right from the start? Because in that once I remember a guy got into an argument with a girl in 3rd grade, and the girl started the fight, I think, and the teacher didn't say anything to her, telling the boy, see, they are girls, you have to be soft to them. So do you think that this is being stemmed from there?
Of course.
So if you were to have a school, and let's just say you didn't have many of these legal pressures to do this, do that, and teach them this rule, what would you build an institution on based on this narrative?
I think we'll have to build our institutions and society on equal and mutual respect. As simple as that. We can't be teaching only our boys how to behave with girls. It's time we got to teach our girls also how to behave with boys and respect them as well. If they demand respect, then they'll have to give respect as well. If they're going to be abusive to someone, then they can't expect that somebody is going to respect them just because of their gender. And if I were to have a school or educational institute like that, something that you said, dharma and morals, I think all of these things are completely missing from our education
It's finished. No,
system.
it's not in our society. Forget education.
Yeah, correct. But
why
yes.
do we call this Kali Yuga? Is because earlier, you never had these issues.
No, but I remember when we were growing up, Kunal, we had moral education classes in our school, right? It was a separate subject, if I remember. When I was a kid, there was moral education, and it was
called moral science.
Moral science, basic things used to be taught to us, and I think that has an impact on the mind. At least, I mean, anybody can commit wrongs, but when you're committing a wrong, you understand that it is wrong, and somewhere that conscience,
your subconscious
will stop
mind
you.
is always telling
will
you, right?
stop you from there. Yeah. But today, there are just so many people who are absolutely okay, trying to ruin someone, destroy someone, take revenge, and things
there's a lot
like
of pleasure in that.
Yeah,
part.
there's some kind of very, very perverse mentality that has come about.
Yeah,
where you can achieve what you want to achieve on any terms and conditions. It doesn't matter. And greed. Greed is one human attribute which has been there forever in everyone. Now, men have been doing all of this for the longest of times. Now, women are so greedy that in order to get money, in order to get fame or whatever, have their desires fulfilled, they're willing to do anything. We were talking about Me Too. I remember meeting a director, and he said he personally knows at least 3 women, not like friends or something, but in the circle, who were staying in chawls in Bombay, but who have now bungalows in that Me Too period duration only, within months.
That easy, no?
That easy, right? So, yeah.
What about like a He Too movement? Is that coming about anytime soon, or does the society just be like...
Yeah, save us, man, really. Save us, men.
No, so we do share a lot of things that happen with men with #MenToo. And it also, at one point of time during the Me Too movement, trended as well, where men started speaking about what happens to them. But unfortunately, a lot of women had an issue with that. And they said, at least have some original name for your movement or whatever, and don't speak up when women are speaking. Every time women start talking about their issues, men just want their issues to be heard as well. But the problem is, we're always, all the time, hearing only women's issues.
You've never voiced our issues.
Yeah. There's no specific time, or there's no specific acknowledgement that men have issues and let's discuss that. No. We have made International Men's Day also into a toilet day.
Absolutely.
So where exactly is the space for men to actually discuss their issues? A lot of feminists and women's rights activists become really angry with me when we are on debates on national TV, and they say, Deepika brings up issues that men are facing whenever women's issues are being discussed. And I just tell them exactly this. Tell me the last time you had a debate discussing this man committed suicide, or this man was jailed for so long on a false allegation and he has now got acquitted. So let's discuss what happened with him. We don't. So the only opportunity that men somewhere get to put out what they are facing as well is only when women's issues are discussed. So, yeah.
Okay, I want to clarify one more thing about our age group. If I am in India or in US especially, and a male is at a house party or at any kind of social scene, and over there, if a girl is drunk or not drunk, and she gets physical with him and takes him somewhere, what is he supposed to do? What is the solution to not falling into this trap?
So by law, a woman who is not able to consent because she's not conscious, she's passed out or something, if she says that she was not in her senses and she was drunk, etc., her consent is not valid. So basically it would be
You're in trouble.
Considered that, you have violated her consent. If she's, like I was giving example of that movie theater, right? Where this guy was, so she added that part that he gave her a cold drink and she became completely unconscious,
Unconscious,
basically to rope in that aspect, that she was not in her senses, right? So even if
Consent was not there.
Yeah, consent was not there. So a drunk woman, her consent is not valid. Even if the man is drunk as well, it's he who has to take care of.
No, and she may even fake it that she was drunk, right? Like you said in this case. She
Anything
need not
can
be
happen.
actually drunk to say
Anything
that.
can happen.
She can just say, I was drunk.
You would not believe right now if you actually, I keep on sharing these cases and I keep on talking to police.
I've read all your cases on Twitter.
Thank you so much. So even if you talk to police officers, approximately, if not wrong, 80 to 85% of the rape cases that are going to the authorities these days would have this very, very standard script that she was given a cold drink laced with a sedative and she was not conscious after that. And then when she woke up, the next part follows. And then there's another very common allegation that he made videos and then he blackmailed over those videos. Why are these allegations added? Because one, to prove that, she was knocked out, so she couldn't consent, so there was no consent. And two, she would say that she kept on being in sexual relationship because she was being blackmailed. Now, I'm not saying things like this do not happen. They can and they must probably would have happened with women. But in a lot of cases, it's an absolutely consensual relationship. How to make it non-consensual? These elements are added. That when sex happened for the first time, it was because he gave me a sedative.
Right.
And then when that had happened, he made a video. And then because then we are going to hotels 10 times. So why am I going to hotel with him? Because he had made some video.
So then why are you speaking up now?
And then there are so many judgments in which the courts have said there was no video found. There was nothing on the phone of the man. There was no sedative, nothing. There was no medical test done. Yeah, this is also important. Now, because she is filing a case after that long, whether there was a sedative or not, medical cannot prove.
You can just say.
Where there was consent or not, you cannot prove. On top of that, if a woman says that she doesn't want to go through a medical test, she has all the opportunity to do so. Yeah.
अच्छा मतलब वो भी नहीं मतलब
कोई जरूरी नहीं है.
You don't even need to do a medical test to prove that okay what I'm saying is true or false.
There's a girl who filed 9 rape cases on 9 different boys within just 1 year in Gurgaon.
Damn.
He eventually got her arrested.
She must be, okay, I thought she owns half of Gurgaon now.
Not really. And most of the cases, she used this allegation, Shadi ka jhansa. So everybody was giving her Shadi ka jhansa. There's another woman who we have got action upon in Jaipur. She filed 14 cases of rape, molestation, gang rape against more than 20 men over a period of 6-7 years.
That's insane.
I know. There's another woman, educated MBA from Jabalpur, who has filed rape cases on 7 different men alleging false promise of marriage. In almost all of these cases, in majority of the cases, the woman did not go for medical test.
So in any such case, married or not, if the man somehow, very unlikely, but somehow proves that she is incorrect and it has been legally declared that the man is innocent, woman tried to file a false case, what is the consequence for the woman?
That's a brilliant question.
Out of 1,000 such cases, no. Out of 10,000 such cases, perhaps in one case, a woman would get punished.
How? Like, what is the punishment?
Filing a false case is a crime. There's no doubt about it. There are certain sections under the IPC. Sorry?
It's a minor crime.
Well, it is a serious crime, but the problem is it's not the authority of a man to get a woman like that punished. The police has to take action against the woman, or the court has to take an action against the woman once it is proved that she filed a false case. But our courts do not do that. The police doesn't do that. There's a section 182 under the IPC which prescribes only 6 months punishment if a woman or if anyone files a false case. That too is not done by the cops. They do not pursue 182 against the women who file false cases. Then there is section 211, 195 and a series of other provisions. But those can be invoked again either by the police or the courts. They don't take cognizance. There are some rare cases. For example, in the last 1.5, 2 years, I've heard of 2 cases. One from Uttar Pradesh, where there was a woman who has been sentenced to 6 years in jail for filing a false rape case. It has happened after 10 years of the trial going through and then she being tried for filing a false case. And recently there was a case down south where a woman has been punished for 3.6 years, 3.5 years for filing a false rape case. But rare. There was a case in which I was helping a guy. This woman also has filed close to 6 to 7 cases of rape, molestation, sexual harassment, etc. One of the guys she accused of rape, there was no sexual relationship between them.
At all?
No. And this man also had chat from the day one till the day he was arrested. In fact, this man had first filed a case against her, saying that she's blackmailing him and she's threatening him that she will file a rape case. He went to complain to the authorities first, but authorities did not listen to him. Registered an FIR against him instead, again of Shadi Ka Jhansa Dekar rape, and then he was arrested.
It's in India.
Yeah, it's in Gurgaon. And this man spent close to 4 months in jail and then came out on bail. He was he went through the trial of the case for about 2.5, 3 years. He was found innocent. In the judgment, the judge observes that when the woman was confronted that how many rape cases she has filed, and it was brought on record that she has filed these many rape molestation cases, she chose to remain silent and did not answer anything.
My God.
Despite observing that this woman is a serial litigant, the judge only gave an acquittal to this guy that, okay,
That's it.
You're not guilty. Yeah. Didn't punish her.
Okay.
And she continues to destroy lives.
What about cases that really don't have anything to do with rape and none of the cases are filed? For example, there's a married man, a married couple with kids, grown-up kids who are probably in college right now. And the wife has an extramarital affair with another guy. And then he catches her red-handed and he has evidence. He proves her and they file for divorce. And then the wife asks that I want this property, I want that, I want this car, that car. What is the situation with that?
So technically by law, adultery used to be an offense, a criminal offense. It is no longer a criminal offense now. It is only a ground for divorce. So whether the husband is cheating on his wife or the wife is cheating on the husband, either of them can go to the court and seek divorce on grounds of adultery. Obviously, they would require to prove that she is adulterous, and it is very difficult to prove adultery either by a man or a woman. But what happens is, and again by law, if the husband is able to prove that the woman has been in adultery or has been in an adulterous relationship, technically she is not entitled for maintenance. But the problem is, when the man files the case for divorce on grounds of adultery, the woman retaliates filing 498A, domestic violence.
The weapons are there.
Maintenance cases. The weapons are there. So the man either has to fight for the longest of times or probably just, just
Suffer.
say, yes.
Just suffer.
Okay, just take money and then leave me and then whatever.
But suffering is involved throughout, right?
Of course.
You're parting with your reputation,
Yes.
your social status, the social
Yes.
stigma on top of you.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is why I will now ask you about prenups. A prenup does what exactly? If somebody signs a prenup, does that mean that the other spouse...
I just want to mention something here because, especially to the audience,
Sure.
when men are confronted with a situation where their wife is cheating upon them, the usual reaction is a lot of anger, a lot of
Hate, anger.
hate,
yeah.
and aggression as well. It is very detrimental, very, very detrimental. My advice to men who are being cheated upon is to calm down and gather as much evidence as possible. If you have solid proof, solid evidences, there are good chances that she would not even think of filing a case
No, but
against
then
you.
also, apart from just like what I understand is, apart from having solid proof, solid evidences, you also have to have the money to fight this case, right?
Oh yes, sir,
Tomorrow.
obviously. Money
I mean,
is
like, who's
required for
going to
everything.
sit? Yeah, I mean, like, who's going to, go to court and pay all those fees, etc. and all that. Especially like you're talking about high court and all. It's ridiculous. I mean, like, I'm just so scared right now, and I find this whole topic to be very, very odd. And I think it really fits in with our podcast.
Speaking of all this, I would like to know a little bit about prenups. What exactly is a prenup, and does it actually hold any significance in India?
Prenuptial agreements are agreements which are drawn upon by the husband and the wife, who either before the marriage or during the process. Prenup essentially is a discussion on, it can be on everything, but largely it's on how the division of assets will be if there is a separation, how the kids would be, if there are kids, and how's the time of the kids being divided between husband and wife, and various other things. Financial distribution of liabilities or things like that. There are no strict things that only this can be there in the prenup or this cannot be there. But prenuptial agreements are not valid in India. They are not recognized in India. Prenuptial agreements are valid only and only in Goa, in India. But for that, you need to, I think there are a lot of criterions to be fulfilled. For that, I think you should have either stayed in Goa for a considerable period of time and then gotten married there itself in Goa, or you have been a resident of Goa and things like that. Because their law is still very, I think Portuguese law, there's some different code that is there. So it's only in Goa that it is recognized. Rest of the India, it's not recognized. So even if you draw one, doesn't really hold too much significance.
So, ma'am, I have a funny question to ask right now, that in America, if a girl files a false rape case on a man, can the man say identify as a woman and then not face the charges?
No. In India, nothing like that is possible. Even if a woman has actually converted into a man or had a sex change therapy, then also his female partner or her female partner can accuse him only. As long as he is identifying as man or become a man, he can be accused, even if she was a woman earlier or whatever. But people are now coming up with very innovative ways. So, yeah, there was recently a case that went really, really viral, where girlfriend of a guy filed a rape case on him, ki shaadi ka jhansa deke rape kiya hai. And the guy got a friend of his who was an SC/ST to file an SC/ST case on the girl.
Oh.
So, yeah. And there was a case from Rajasthan where the wife filed dowry and the package of cases on the husband, and the husband's mother filed a rape case on the daughter-in-law's father.
Oh, tit for tat, huh?
Tit for tat. So there was recently a case in Delhi. The High Court basically, not the High Court, I think the Sessions Court was granting bail to an old man. Again, the same equation. The girl had filed cases on her husband and the entire husband's family. Husband's mother filed a rape case on the daughter-in-law's father.
But it's so sad that
It is
you still
so
have
sad.
you have to go to this level to.
Exactly. And what are the courts and what is the system actually doing, watching these things? Now, the judge in this case, the Delhi case, observes that initially when the complaints were filed from both the sides, it was a case of, there was a argument between them, there was some kind of a heated fight, etc. And both the sides had claimed that they beat each other up. That was the FIR. But 17, 18 days later, the husband's mother filed a rape case against the daughter-in-law's father. And showing that day itself as the alleged day of incident. So the judge said that she's a doctor and one of her son is an advocate also. So she had all the wherewithal to come to tell the police that, the guy had sexually assaulted her. But she didn't say that then. Days later, she's making an allegation of sexual abuse. So this prima facie case looks like a, false case. But even when there is such evident false case, the judge could have actually asked the cops to completely, investigate the case and throw the case off because it is a false case. They're not willing to take that stand.
I want to ask you, while this is so scary and, I've seen some of the good work that you've done, and I want to just get into, your documentary, Martyrs of Marriage. So just can you tell us about that, just briefly?
So Martyrs of Marriage is a feature-length documentary film. I released it in 2016. We had an amazing show of the film across the country. I was in fact very, very honored to have screened the documentary film in the court in Pune and Law College. And we also screened the documentary for the trainee judges and police officers in judicial academies. So we had a screening at the Maharashtra Judicial Academy. We had a screening at the Tamil Nadu Judicial Academy. So a lot of young officers who would then go and implement the law saw this film and the importance of innocence of people who are falsely accused. It is right now streaming on JioCinema. It was on Netflix for 2 years, but right now it's available on JioCinema. Please go ahead and watch it. It details how dowry law misuse has destroyed so many families in the country. My latest documentary is India's Sons.
That's not yet come out, right?
It is out. It is also streaming on JioCinema itself. India's Sons is a story of men who were falsely accused of rape, and then they honorably got acquitted from the court of law. But the suffering that they went through and the struggles that they went through. And it has some really, really provoking stories shocking stories that will make you think that how can something like this happen? There's a story of, these people have told, this is a documentary, people tell their own stories themselves. There's a case that we have featured in the film where an IPS officer and his wife spent 3 years defending a false charge of rape. Why was this rape case filed on this IPS officer? Because he had a political vendetta. He fell out with the then chief minister of the state, and not one, but 2 women were planted to file a false rape case on this man.
And that just finished him.
Yeah, kind of finished him. Yes, absolutely. And not just him. His wife was also roped in.
My God.
The allegation that was made was that he called these women on pretext of getting them a job, and inside his own house, in the presence of his wife, he raped these women.
You mean like she was like an accomplice or a facilitator of the whole thing?
Yes. When this woman had never been to that house. So that's how blatantly false the case was. But it still took him.
Do any of your documentaries give a solution or a recourse at the end? Like, do they, or are we just in God's hands?
The only solution to these cases is to fight them as hard as you can.
And
There's
call
no
you.
other. Sorry?
And call you.
And call me.
All right.
And call me. That's a good point, actually. It's a lot of men feel really, really helpless, and I totally understand that. And when I talk about these issues, I also understand that what I say is scary, but what I say is true. It is what is happening in the society, which I'm only doing the job of bringing out.
No, I've seen it with my own friends
Right?
in
So,
Pune.
Yeah.
I've seen it with so many people.
So, have we been able to find a solution to completely throw away the crime of rape from the society? No. Have we been able to stop violence against women in the society? Is there a solution to that? Honestly, no. Because women are victims to these crimes. now men are also victims to these crimes. So it's not about an absolute solution which can be brought in place, but the solution is to give justice to people who are victims of these crimes. As if now women have provisions that can get them justice if they're subjected to wrongs like these, men do not have provisions in laws if they're subjected to wrongs like these. So one is we're fighting for gender neutral laws, and two is if there are men who've become victims of false allegations, the solution is to fight back so that the menace does not spread more in the society. We need to, men actually need to step up, amp up their fight against the wrongs being done to men, set precedents where women are punished, women such who think that they can just abuse the laws and get away, get them to justice. I always say in all of my conversations, the fight for women's rights has not been easy and it's not been quick. They have been fighting to get their due for years and years and decades and decades. And now they have, got a lot of provisions, they've got a lot of rights. We are at a very, very nascent stage of even talking about what men are facing through. So it will obviously take a long time for any change to come. But for any change to come, there has to be a lot of people who have to come together, raise a unanimous voice, stand for each other, and ensure that they stand against wrong like this and not be okay with it. Because the first point is to accept that there's a problem, and then we can talk about solutions. So my advice to any man who's suffering, who is going through things like these, the most important is to not give up. Never think of suicide. We deal with a lot of cases of suicide, and it just saddens me day in, day out that despite so much of effort from people like me, we continue to lose lives because these people don't know that there are some people like me also who can help them. Maybe not solve their problem, but we can stand with them and then guide them. And there is a lot of support available from men who are victims of, situations like these. So any man or his family who is into a situation like this, please do not give up. That's my humble request. The only thing that happens is you probably get off the, situation, but your family suffers even more than they would already. So, and the most important thing is please take legal recourse, speak to someone to share your problem, and definitely find if there are people like me in your state, in your city. All that you have to do is you have to perhaps type false allegations, name of your city, false allegations against men, or men's rights in Pune, or men's rights in Mumbai, or men's rights in Delhi, Gurgaon, anywhere, and you would obviously find at least some resources. Because why I'm saying this, because I also don't know how many small little help groups have now started in India. I'm also not in touch with, or I also don't know about all of them. But there are a lot of self-help groups that have come across the country. So please get in touch with them. Try to get guidance or support from them. There's an organization called Save Indian Family. It runs its helpline, national helpline called SIF1.
We'll put the number out.
Yeah, it's 888-498-498. There are a lot more organizations that are helping men. There is Sahodar Trust. There is NCM India Council for Men Affairs. There are so many organizations across the country. So you can reach out to them. And obviously you can reach out to me. We regularly counsel people. We regularly try and motivate them to fight their cases. Not just counseling, but we have personally intervened in cases. I've now set up my organization called Ekam Nyay Foundation. Through that, we intervene in cases. We approach police authorities. There are a lot of people women and honey trap gangs that we have got busted and arrested by taking these cases to the authorities now. So yeah, little tiny steps for change, of course, but I'm sure in the long run, they would play a crucial role. So yeah, reach out to me. I'm available on social media. You can reach out to Ekam Nyay Foundation.
We'll put out all your handles, we'll put out your number, etc., everything on the show.
But please seek help.
Of course. So first of all, I would like to say that, I'm glad we did this episode. Secondly, it's odd that, so much has happened and yet we are barely there.
Yeah.
Before I started this episode and when I was reading about it, I used to always think that men's rights is a myth. And you've probably affirmed that today, that men's rights is a myth and it's a serious problem. And I would, caution everyone on two things. One is that, getting into any relationship, whether it's a formal or an informal relationship, be very, very careful. Secondly, try and make your relationship more of a duty-based relationship, because that's the system that was there in the past, which worked for thousands of years. Now, when we move to a rights-based society, there are so many conflicts in everything, in every walk of life. And please, please do not think of committing suicide. Try and fight it out till the end, like how Deepika ji said. And there are good people like Deepika ji who are available to try and give you that mental help also, as well as that legal recourse. So thank you, Deepika ji, for coming on the show and for opening our eyes on so much stuff.
I just want to tell people as the last thing that this whole perspective of, or this whole notion that a woman cannot be wrong is the biggest lie ever told to us. Women can be wrong as well, just like men can be wrong. Women can commit extreme crimes as well, just like men can. And these young folks, young boys, really, need to remove their blindfolds. And there are just so many scams happening in the country right now where men and boys are the target. There are just so many traps being laid. It is very, very difficult to get out of them. You would end up losing hell amount of money,
Your
and
property.
of course your mental peace, your family's reputation. So it is very important to know the person that you're getting into a relationship with. And this is not just for men. Women, we tell this all the time, so I don't say this, but women also need to be very wary.
Absolutely.
Internet is a dangerous world. Not everybody you meet over there is a good person. So, and because of the biased laws, it is very, very easy. There are just so many women who are working with gangs to, extort and trap men. So please, please look out on who you're going out on date with. Please look out on who you're getting into a relationship with. You might just walk into a trap.
All right. Thank you so much, Deepika ji.
Thank
I
you.
hope everyone listens to every word you've said, because it's going to save their lives.
Thank you so
Right?
much.
Thank you so much.